My family, as far back as we can trace it, is from Alabama, and they are Methodists. You can sort of dig through the family tree, and there's some ministers in there, and that's just been a family tradition. So I'm one of the people who was not just raised up in, Christianity, but raised up in what became United Methodism. I wasn't really active in the church in college, and it was really only actually when I went to graduate school that I became actually more Methodist, because I got a lot of people asking me, well, what is a Methodist anyway? And I was sort of puzzled. I had to think, well, what is my history and what are the teachings? What makes Methodism distinct? And I can remember then going to graduate school and really being challenged on all fronts with a healthy sort of academic skepticism. That was very difficult for me at first to kind of wrestle with that. I was kind of in an intellectual and personal wilderness with that. I came through it with an understanding, that God is big enough to handle any question that I can throw at, the history of the church. At any level in academia, and working through the things that all professors have to do to get and to keep their jobs is not easy. As I was working through all of the difficulty of preparing classes, working on publications, research, and so forth, it's just one of those times in my life where I had some really difficult times in my family. I had a couple of close relatives die. There were some legal problems in my family. I had a family member who was very seriously ill, someone who was very dear to me. All of that happened at the same time. I can remember being so frustrated at that time because I seemed to be surrounded by all sorts of healthy and happy young people whose lives were going perfectly according to plan, and my life seemed to be sort of over here in this ditch. That's when I began to feel a call to ministry, to not to leave my first love, which is history, my ultimate, my profession, but to build on all the things that I had been trained to do, to be a minister in this environment with this church. People have different experiences of this. There was no Damascus moment with a single bright light with a voice from heaven. But if there was a moment, I can remember this was a few years ago, after coming through a lot of these difficult times, I had read a very specific passage in Scripture. It was a parable of the talents. And again, it wasn't a voice from heaven or anything like that, but it was a very strong sense for me that I was the guy burying the one talent. The point of that lesson is that the guy who was burying his talent was fearful. He was afraid. He was frozen. And that described me to a T to that point. After everything that I had been through, I can be a very timid person. And I felt like I was being called to do more with the little bit that I had been given. And it is still a very challenging thing for me. I can certainly remember being frightened of the candidacy process, and being put in the tradition's pulpit is not exactly an easy thing sometimes. So you have to know that the call is there, and you have to have the courage to answer it in your own way, and that's all I've been trying to do.